Good morning, brethren. Good morning, brethren. And allow me to wish you a happy new month. I suppose this is still the first Sunday of the month of May. Happy new month. Thank you very much. And I also like to thank God for this opportunity, for keeping us, even as a church, especially in this passing world. But you have made effort to continue to serve God. You have continued to come to the church, which is encouraging for so very many of us. So I thank you all for coming, and thank the leadership of the church as well for asking me to look at this topic. Very recently, we had some bit of confusion regarding certain aspects of the church structure and organization. And so a few of us were conflicted as to whether the Church of Christ should have ushers, and if they can't have ushers, whether or not females, sisters, should be ushers. So this is what we want to look at. Okay, so that's why you see there as organization and leadership of the Church of Christ. Just as it is, we are going to look at it just as it is in the Bible, irrespective of what you and I might think or what ideas we may have, before now. Okay, and thankfully as well, not very long ago, Brother James thought about, the roles of elders and deacons and bishops and all of that in the church, which is the very basis, foundational basis of church leadership, organization, and management. Okay, so but today we're focusing on just this small aspect, ushers, because he has already talked much about the other aspect. Yes, we'll just look at it briefly so that we can now link it up, marry this one, and have a clearer idea. So the role of ushers in the Church of Christ, and should sisters be allowed to be ushers? If there's anything that you cannot argue, is the fact that since you were born or since you joined the Church of Christ, you have not seen a sister come out here, teaching or usurping authority, is it not? You have not seen a teacher come out here, a sister come out here officiating on the Lord's table. So we don't actually have arguments about that, is it not? So, and it's a good thing that that's already out of the way. So we'll just look at just this aspect. So let's focus on that. Before we start, I like us to do this little exercise. So, individually, just have it at the back of your mind what answers you have for each of these questions, okay? And then at the end of the teaching, we'll look at it again and see what has changed, okay? So, in the New Testament, which of the following leadership roles do you think was explicitly mentioned? Which one do you think was explicitly, that's clearly mentioned in the New Testament? You can just keep it within yourself. You don't have to tell me. Okay, do you think A, ushers were mentioned specifically in the Bible? Do you think it was elders, choirs, or protocol officers as we have in some churches today? So just take note of that. Next question. The primary authority for determining church rules and practices should be what? Should it be the church tradition? Should it be church norms? Should it be the New Testament scripture or personal preferences? Okay, so I leave that again with you. Think about that. We'll come back to it. How about number 3? The term ushers as used in many congregations today. Please read it very well. As used in many congregations, including denominational churches today, clearly defined in the New Testament. B, is a modern functional role, not explicitly named in the scriptures. Or C, is a priestly office. Or D, it is a replacement for elders. What do you think? Okay. And then question number 4, which of the following best describes the roles of deacons? Is it that they are governing the church universally? Okay. Governing the church universally like we have in certain, Christendom. The Roman Catholic, for example, you have a person who is somewhere who is head and then governing all of the churches worldwide. We have those in Pentecostal churches. If I own Fire of Mountain, for example, I would oversee all the other branches irrespective of where they are on the surface of the earth. Do you think that's it in the Church of Christ? Or is it that they are serving in practical administrative functions, or they write the scriptures, or that they are going to lead worship exclusively? And the next question, which of the following activities you think best describe the present day ushers? What do you think they typically do, ushers of today? Is it that they just welcome members and visitors, or are they maintaining order during services? Are they there for gatekeeping, or they assist with seating and logistics, or you think it's all of the above? Okay, all of this will be relevant in our teaching today, and that's why we are looking at it. Do you believe every church role must be explicitly mentioned in the scriptures for it to be valid? Do you think so? And then last is, in your opinion, should sisters be allowed to serve? When we have examined everything, you should have a conclusion by this time. Do you think sisters should be ushers in the Church of Christ? Okay, so ignore this one. That's the last question. Okay, so now that you have briefly at the back of your mind what we are going to talk about, let's quickly just introduce this topic. The church itself, like every institution, okay, must have a structure. There's a way we run that I cannot change even if I don't like it. Okay, so if you join a company, for example, they will tell you they have maybe a CEO, a manager, or your line manager, and then you have maybe operations manager, and like that. There is a structure you met in that place, and you may not like it, but you cannot change it. That's how it is also in the Church of Christ. The church is an institution, and we do have an organization and a structure for worship. The only thing that differs from the Church of Christ and every other institution in the world is that every small congregation like this itself embodies that organization. So if you have a manager in this congregation, Sheffield Church of Christ, we have operations manager, or you have a medical director, you have clinical leads, consultant, and all of that. That structure is only for this Sheffield Church of Christ. If you go to another congregation, it may not be like that. Why will it not be like that if you go to, for example, Edmonton? Because in Edmonton, they may not have the full complement of leadership to form a complete structure. What I mean by that, they may not have men who have qualified to be pastors or to be elders. And that's what we suffer in this congregation, Sheffield. At Sheffield Church of Christ, for example, we don't yet have people who are, or have met the qualities to be what? Pastors and elders. Even if we have one or two who have met that, criteria, we cannot appoint one person as an elder, as Brother James already has told us. Elders, you need to have at least two for you to run the church. So even if every congregation is autonomous, the congregation still needs to have the full complement of the leadership structure for it to function effectively. So where there are no pastors, so there are no elders or deacons to run the church, what then happens? That's what you see in this Church of Christ. Then there are brethren, dedicated brethren, who come out to lead the church based on the scriptures and the scriptures only. So they cannot usurp authority exactly. They cannot tell us what we must. The word must is important. They cannot tell us what we must do. And that's what we have in this church. So that's why we have to go back to the Bible and see how the early churches were run, and then we try to run it just like that. So this diagram gives you an overview of what I have just said. This is each congregation. This is one congregation. Always know it like this. So Christ is the head of the church, as we see in Ephesians chapter 1, verses 22. We already know it. We are not going to read, because one thing I think we will suffer today is time. Okay, I'm trying to make sure we finish this in one sitting, because if we extend it, what will be left will not be enough for another full Sunday service. And so we're trying to do everything today. So I beg of you, maybe we'll just be a little bit late. Instead of closing 10:30 or 11:30, we might extend it just a bit. So this is it. We'll not read that passage because of that. Now, Christ is the head over each local congregation. So in this church, the leadership is Jesus Christ first, and then the church itself. Within the church, if you have the full complement of staff, then you will have elders, you will have deacons, and you have evangelists and the teachers, okay? And then all the others, which are the members. This is how it runs. The elders and the bishop, they've got specific qualities, as you see in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 to 7. Okay, and these specific qualities are needed because they must be able to provide spiritual leadership. They must be able to oversee the congregation. They must be able to teach, protect, and care for the flock. So if they do not have the qualities that enables them to do this, they cannot qualify. Okay, you may have been in the church 20 years, but you cannot provide spiritual leadership because even you don't know God. It's not all of us that come here that even know God, Abi. Yeah, now. If you slap me and I slap you back, do I know God? Because the Bible principle is that if you slap me, I should turn the other side. You see, that's how the principles of the scripture is different from the principles of the word. In the word, I should retaliate. If you slap me, I'll slap you back. That's how you know that I'm not dumb, is it not? But in the Church of Christ, if you slap back, you are dumb. You don't know what you're doing. Okay, so the brother must first be knowledgeable about the principles of the scriptures for him to be able to oversee the congregation. What if he's not old enough? Can he actually qualify as an elder when he does not yet have the experience that is needed to lead people? The most difficult thing in this world is to lead people. Take it or leave it, because they have their own mind. And especially in a country like this with so much liberty, you can't tell people what to do. So they can, if they want to make the church ungovernable for you, they will make it ungovernable for you. And you'll just be there confused and crying, knowing not what to do. It's very difficult. So the person needs to be matured. And age is what brings that maturity and experience. So yes, when they say they are elders, they should have grown into that quality. Okay? So that's why you will see these passages that I have listed there. Shall we read it? I don't think we need to, because there's no time. Okay? We might come back to just read a few later. Deacons, the same thing. While these ones, the elders, bishop, pastors, overseers, they are the same thing. They are just different terminology describing the same office. Okay? While these are leadership roles, these deacons are servants meant to, serve the church, meant to be under the supervision of the elders. The elders are not under supervision of anybody. They're only under the supervision of Jesus Christ. So when you have elders in this church, a lot of things will change. That's why women cannot be elders. When you have elders in this church, they can wake up one Sunday and tell you this is how, provided they are not outrightly going, contrary to the scriptures. They'll tell you this is how we worship henceforth. And you cannot argue that, because God has given them, that authority. They have occupied that role. So they tell you, we no longer do this like this, and this is the pattern for today. And then brethren would comply, provided the elders within themselves have agreed, and what they are doing is not outrightly contrary to the scriptures, is it not? So that's the power they have. And that's why the one person cannot be elder, that way it becomes God over us. There must be many, so that they can keep themselves in check. But the deacons would serve under them. If, for example, we had a deacon, you will not appoint Enome to come here and officiate on the Lord's table. No, it is the deacon that will carry the plate round and serve it. It's the deacons that will divide. If the church has surplus, if the church somebody has brought something, okay, let's take this used clothes or food, and they have to divide it. The deacons will be in charge of that sharing. They serve the church. You talk about you have benevolent committee, and today there are brethren that are in charge, Brother Patrick's, and also running a benevolent committee. You will not do anything. The deacons will be in charge. How about visitations? They will do that. How about evangelism? They will do that. They will supervise the church, organize the church to make sure that all of these offices, all of these aspects of assignments in the church is being carried out effectively. So you, me, that are the members, what do? We come here and feed of the spiritual word that these people give to us. Okay? So we do all of these things. Call anybody to come and do all of these things today is because we don't yet have the full complement of staff. Okay, so all of this that I've explained, I hope you keep it in your head. It's important so that you will understand, how the church is run, even if we don't yet have it. Okay, that's how it ought to be. So the issue of whether there should be ushers or not is a matter that we can look at from the Bible, because we don't have elders to give us a straightforward, decision. When matters, there are certain issues that are not directly in the scriptures, elders will tell you this is how it stands, and it will stand like that. It does not mean that they are being, authoritative or autocratic. They go to their meetings, the elders meeting, they meet there and say this is how it should be. Can there be ushers in the church? They have looked at the Bible. There is no clear guidelines as to whether ushers should be in the Church of Christ or not, because really you will not find it there. The word ushers is not even in the Bible. And then they come and tell you, okay, today we are having ushers. You come the next Sunday, they have ushers. So be it. God has given them that power. Is that interesting? So I hope, having said this, some of us, you get motivated to be an elder or pastors in the very near future, okay? So that's my hope really for everybody. All right, so let's quickly now run along. Next slide. We'll talk about elders briefly. I think I've already said all these things I need to say under this, okay? Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 to 14 gives back into all of the things that I have just told you, okay? So Christ himself gave them to the apostles, prophets, and evangelists, pastors, and teachers to equip his people for the works of service so that the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach the perfection of faith and the knowledge of the Son of God and becomes mature, attaining the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Okay, and then this again explains some of those assignments, roles, and qualifications of the elder that I've just told you about, okay? They are referred by a number of terms. We have already said that. And then their duty is to oversee the church, the shepherd, okay, or the pastor, the church, all right? So we move on because this is not the basis, but now we know where we are coming from. Okay. Is there usher in the Bible? Anybody ever seen it before? I have never seen it. At the moment I was given this topic to talk about, I went and started to check everything that looks like it. I've never seen it. It was not there. But there were concepts. The concept exists. The function of ushers existed, but they were not called ushers, and there was no usher in the Bible. Okay? So in the Old Testament, we saw so many areas where these concepts of ushers was used. Okay? But before we come there, let's go to this next line and talk about what the word ushers even mean. Usher itself and all the word usher was not originally an English word. The very first origin was from Latin, okay? And it was ostarius, meaning gatekeeping. So an usher was a person who watches the gate to a city. They stay there, controlling access, who comes in and who goes out. Okay? But over time, the terminology metamorphosed. First, French picked it up and French began to call it usia, keeping the meaning, the same thing. And then Middle English picked it up, okay, to now become usher. Modern English has further changed it. It's usher now, but the roles are changing. But if you look, what is common is that the function remains. It is gatekeeping. And gatekeeping was very important in those days because cities were vulnerable. So the gatekeepers were people who had military might, people who were firm. They have the build, the muscle, the physical appearance of a soldier. And gatekeepers operated like the military. They had divisions, as we will see. Okay? Just like today, the military, you have battalion, you have, that's how they were. They had, very structured form or formations like a military. Why am I emphasizing this? That automatically begins to rule something out of your mind. That women could not perform those roles. Is it not? Yes, women could not perform those roles at that time. Okay? So, in 1 Chronicles chapter 9, verses 11 to 27, please quickly read for us. You see a gatekeeper here. You see this guy. He's there morning till night, standing with his sword. This guy was an usher. But in the Old Testament, he was not called an usher. He was called a gatekeeper. Please, anybody there at 1 Chronicles chapter 9, verses 17, please read for us. So, yes, please.
The gatekeeper, Shalom, Akko, Talmon, Ahima, and their fellow Levites, Shalom, Yash, Shi.
Okay. Yes, please.
Okay, 18. These nations are the king's gates on the east, up to the present time. These were the gatekeepers belonging to the camp of the Levites.
Okay, let's hold it. So these were the gatekeepers belonging to the camp of Levi. Those names are very difficult to pronounce. You see a lot of names there. Okay? So it tells you that their function was to be there controlling access. Not the present day function. The present day function, as we shall soon see, is that ushers are meant to now greet people on the door. Hey, how are you? And then they lead people to their seats. And all of those hospitality kind of, appearances in the church. But that was not what it was. The ushers those days, they did not smile. They stayed there at the city gate, protecting and making sure that only person who deserves to enter the city entered the city. Okay, all right. So that explains why they were males. Look at this guy standing there morning to night. Okay, and we've said that they behaved like the military. So they had organized formation, military-like assignments, and they were called the mighty men of valor. As we shall soon see, men of valor. Okay, men, not women. First Chronicles chapter 26, verses 1 to 90. Please, brother, if you can read this. All of the names.
Chapter 26.
Yes, please.
Verses 9.
1.
Verse 1. Okay. The division of the gatekeepers from the Korahites. Shetelema, son of Korah, one of the sons of Asa. Mechalemiah had sons. Zechariah the firstborn, Jediah the second, Zebadiah the third, Jabneel the fourth.
Verses 10. Verses 10.
Verse 10. Alright. Also the Merarites had sons, children the first, although he was not the first one, his father had appointed him the first.
Okay, so one thing that you see there is all the people that were mentioned were men. They were sons, they were sons, they were sons, they were sons. If you go to the book of Exodus 28, the same thing. All those who kept watch over the city, all the ushers were males. At that time, okay, very importantly, beyond just needing the physical appearance and stamina of a man, only those who were of the Levitical priesthood could even be gatekeepers. So females did not come into the question at that time because the description of the duties were that of men and men only. Remember, we are not talking about the church at that time. It was just the temple. But now, there's similarity between the occurrence, between the nature in the Old Testament and the nature in the New Testament. What do I mean by that? The reason Bible does not permit women to come out in the church to teach and to officiate and to do all of those things is because he does not want them to usurp authority over men. And you can argue, how do you usurp authority? How do you do that when you are just preaching? Remember that preaching itself is like dishing out commandments, just that they are not of your own. They are the commandment and orders of the Bible. So when you come out here to preach, you're actually making orders. You are commanding people and telling people, thou shalt not, and thou shalt not. That's just what God don't want. So the gatekeepers those days, they also stayed at the gate doing thou shalt not enter, madam go back, sir go back. You see the authority figure there. That's what it was. I keep saying what it was because we'll soon see that things change really drastically. As the meaning of the present day usher change, then things change. But it's good we look back into history. Okay, so gatekeepers, we are men. I think I've been able to put that argument forth, okay, convincingly. All right, gatekeepers, we are men. Now, how about deacons? We come to the New Testament. Deacons in the church are supposed to what? Serve, the church, as we have already established. There's those who God has appointed to be servants in the church. Servants, especially if they occupy or if the service is of an authoritative role. Like we also mentioned, Holy Communion and all that. What about sweeping? What about cleaning? Does that have an authoritative connotation? It's a no. So, can a person who is a non-deacon actually take up that role? Yes. So, when you look at the scriptures, you need to be able to differentiate leadership, okay, from service. If you come into the church like Chief is doing, you come into the church and you organize, the IT system of the church, you are serving the church because you are making this microphone function so that the teacher can use it. You are serving the church, but there is no point in time did you come to tell the church what they should do. Like the teachers would do when they come in to tell you what to do. As we preach, for example, if at the end of this teaching, you find out that, oh yes, the church can have ushers. Indirectly, I have told you what to do, but it's just that I did not tell you it's of my own accord. I'll tell you it's from the scriptures. Or if we tell you that should not, fornicate, or that should not steal, or that should not backbite, we are telling you not to do it. So that's role, even if it's service, even if I come out here and I was appointed, okay, teach this next Sunday, even if I'm actually serving, I'm teaching, there's a bit of a leadership element in it. Is it clear? There's a bit of leadership element in it, whereas there are other services that does not involve any leadership role. So if you can take away the leadership aspect of it, then anybody can do it. Okay? So deacons, principally, were men, as we see in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 to 8. Are you there, please? Okay, when I finish, just note the question. Okay? So let's quickly look at 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 8. 1 Timothy 3, 8.
1 Timothy 3:8. In the same way, deacons are to be worthy of respect, sincere, not indulging in much wine, and not pursuing dishonest gain. 9. They must keep hold of the deep truths of the faith with a clear conscience. They must first be tested, and then, if there is nothing against them, let them serve as deacons.
Continue.
In the same way, the women are to be worthy of respect, not malicious talkers, but temperate and trustworthy in everything. A deacon must be faithful to his wife and must manage his children and his household well.
All right, thank you very much. That's where I want us to get to. So one thing we can see from that passage is that deacons were males. The characteristics described there were that of male. They must be husbands of one wife. Their wives must be in submission. Their wives must be women of faith. It was not the opposite. Okay, so deacons themselves also were male. But what changed is that they were actually servants. Okay, so the word deacon comes from this Greek word diakonos, which means to serve or to be a waiter. When you carry this communion plate and you are carrying it around, that's a waiter. Every Sunday, Brother Nicholas come and carry that thing around. He's a waiter. So he could not do it if we had deacons. Deacons would do it. So that was their job. He said their role is to meet practical needs of the church as demonstrated in the book of Acts chapter 6, verses 1 to 7. What happened there was a bit of confusion, division as to how do we share these things in the church. Some people were being overfed, others were underserved. And so the church sat down and said, let us appoint men. The Bible was very specific. Let us appoint men who would share. You see, because the elders said something. The elders in this passage say, we cannot be administering to service, to preaching, to teaching, and we now come again and have time to be dividing and sharing things in the church. So let us appoint what? Credible men. And that was how they appointed Philip, Stephen, and the others, 7 of them. And so they had, they had deacons in the church. So if you marry this to the present day church, you come to understand that there are aspects of the church that sisters can lead. There are aspects of church that men can lead. Men will lead if it involves, authoritative roles, if it involves, commands, and sisters will lead if it does not. So if you can establish a duty of the church, whether ushers or any other thing, that it does not involve leadership, then sisters will be able to be part of it. I'll give you another example. Some people argue today that a sister called Phoebe in Romans chapter 16 was a deacon. Phoebe. People argue that she was a deacon. Why? Because she served the church. But we are made to know that 1 Timothy chapter 3, that deacons were males. So if Phoebe served the church, how come? In fact, how come she even served the church in the first place if it's male who should serve the church, right? It tells you that the service is of two types. You are either a leader or you are in a role in an office that connotes leadership, or you are a steward. That's the word. Thank you. You are a steward. That is, you are serving without usurping authorities. So waiters are servers. If you go to restaurant, they don't have the idea of their own. They do what they are told. But are they serving? They are serving. Chef, cooks, they don't have the idea of their own. They are under the authority of the managers. But they serve. So there are sisters who serve the church. We'll see later. Priscilla preached to Apollos. But you say sisters cannot teach. She ministered to Apollos when he was getting it wrong. The only thing he did not do is that because she does not want to usurp authority, she did it at the close of the worship. Sister also takes me outside after worship and tells me, but then that thing you were saying was not correct. This is how it is. This is how it is. Do you know that there are sisters sitting down here that know past you? If you know the intelligence of some of these people, the way you will know is when you go to the corporate world and you see what women do. That's how you will know that women are more intelligent than men. I'm just being candid. When you go to the office, you see the woman who is your boss, how she does things in an organized fashion, very meticulous, following routine. You will know that they are more organized than men. So it's not because the church or God, Jesus Christ, it tends to belittle them. That's not why. So they're actually serving the church, or they can't serve the church. They just cannot do it over men. Okay, so that's about that. You have read this. So we see examples of deacons serving the church of Christ. Okay, these are deacons, churches of Christ that have deacons. You see old people like this doing this. We already established that it's because of the requirement of the job that makes you see old people. Because before you can meet all of those requirements, you don't get gray hair. Especially having children that are believing. So having a 10-year-old child does not qualify you. 15-year-old child, it does not qualify. Your children needs to also understand the Bible. And before you do that, you have got gray hair. Okay? So these are they are the ones that officiate and do all of those things. Okay? So, and that is it. Okay? You see them providing prayers, advice to brethren. If you come here, you have a problem, and you want the church to pray for you, will not stand up and say, brethren, prayer request, please pray for me, my father is sick. No. You will meet the elders. And then they will pray for you. That's what the Bible says. It says, anyone among you sick, let him meet the elders. They will pray over him. So the elders, the deacons, that's their job. You have problem, you go to them. They'll pray for you. Okay? So let's quickly now look at the modern day use. We'll soon finish. Okay? So we've said most of the things. This is how they define ushers today. I had to check several dictionaries. Okay? A person who guides and escorts people to their seats. Is this a gatekeeper? No, you have not got the gist. It's not a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper will stand at the city gate, at the entrance, preventing people from going out and entry. The present day ushers, they don't have that authority. They don't usurp authority. They don't command. They don't filter. What do? They smile at the door. They lead people to their seats. That's what they do. Another dictionary. Okay, this is Merriam-Webster. It says, a person who leads people to their seats in a theater. So if I come into that door, I'm a visitor, I don't know how the seating arrangement is, there should be somebody at the door to welcome me, to smile at me and to greet me. Oh, brother, we are happy to have you. Come with me, and then they show you your seat. This is the present day understanding of ushers. As I'm saying this today, I'm a bit, I'm actually wary how I say these things, because at the end, I don't want to be, lynched. Because some of these things is you need to be careful. Okay? So roles changed. The usia from which this word was derived actually meant gatekeeping, but it has now metamorphosed over time as languages evolved to now become ushers. And in the present day English, an usher is a person who leads people to their seat, a person who smiles at people when they come, a person who organizes logistics. Oh, chairs filled up. We are having more visitors than we thought. And then he goes outside, he's bringing in more chairs. That's the usher that we know now. That's the usher. They do not usurp authority, do they? They do not. They do not usurp. They do not tell the church what to do. And at weddings, they actually paid services. So it is not them that tell the owner of the wedding what to do. It is the wedding planner that tells them what to do. Okay, so they are greeters, ushers, as you want it, as it is in the present day world, as we see, and as we want it in this church, are greeters. They are welcomers. They are smilers. They are seat finders. They are servers. That's who they are. They do not in any way, I say it again, and I'm emphasizing it because I do not want to be lynched at the end of this teaching. They do not in any way usurp authority. They are not elders or preachers or pastors. They do not tell us what to do. And above all, the terminology is not even found in the scriptures. Okay? All right. So, they are not gatekeepers. They are not military. They do not usurp authority, just for emphasis. Okay? So, having said all of this, if you actually understand what I have said, I've carefully tried to present this to you, looking at history, how people began to serve people, and why it was men at that time, why it is now as it is at this time. If you have carefully followed me, by now you should have an answer at the back of your mind. Can sisters serve as ushers? It is true there is no record of females as gatekeeper in history. It's not in anywhere in the Old Testament. But we saw that sisters served during meetings. In the New Testament, I did mention some. I talked about Phoebe. I talked about, Priscilla. I talked about Timothy's parents who were taking care of children. And in fact, the Bible also actually said sisters can serve if they bring up children in the fear of God. So that's what we are having every Sunday when we have children class. That's what they are doing in respect to the book of 1 Timothy. So yes, sisters can serve. But also in the Old Testament, even when women were not gatekeepers, they were still serving in the temple. They were serving in the temple. Okay, so we can see that in the book of Exodus chapter 38 verse 8. Somebody quickly read this for us, please. Exodus 38 verses 8. They could serve in the temple. Anybody there?
Yeah, Exodus 38 verses 8.
Yes, please.
It says that they made the bronze basin and its bronze stand from the mirrors of the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting.
So women who served, they were making bronze. They were making bows. When brethren came into the temple, sisters would prepare bow and give them. They were serving in the church, serving food and all of that. If you go to 1 Samuel 2:22, the same thing. Sisters were serving in the temple. Can you read that for us? 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 22.
1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 22. Now Eli, who was very old, heard about everything his sons were doing to all Israel and how they slept with the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting.
All right, thank you. So even if that was bad thing, the sons of Eli, they're doing bad thing in the temple, and that's why God killed them. Okay, they were sleeping with women who were serving in the temple. Isn't that what you just read?
Yes.
So women served in the temples. Women served. Women were there to clean. Women were there to prepare food, to wash the feet of worshippers. Okay, they were there to organize. They served, and the sons of Eli took advantage of some of them, sleeping with them within the temple, and that's why God killed them. So, but that's not what the teaching for today. The teaching for today is that, did we see women serving in the temple even when men were said to be the gatekeepers? Yes, they served. But in all of this, you do not see them staying in offices that requires authority. So what do you think the answer is? If ushers of today are gatekeepers, if they are not gatekeepers, if they don't usurp authority, if ushers of today are just there to smile at you, if they are there to lead you to your seat, if they are there to clean the benches, if they are there to make sure that food is well served, it goes round to everybody, do you think they can serve?
Yes.
Yes. I think sisters can be ushers.
Yes.
I think so. Sisters can be ushers. That's my thinking, and that's why I had to be careful, going into the Old Testament to see that, or to look at what it meant those days. And we just saw that what it meant was to protect the city, to use authority, which is not what the present day ushers are doing. So can sisters serve as ushers in the Church of Christ? I think they can. Others that you will see, women who served. In one of my teachings very recently, when we looked at, the judges, you saw that Deborah was a judge. Okay, the day I taught Gideon here, we saw that Deborah was a judge. Anna, she was a temple worshiper. She was in the temple every now and then. We saw Phoebe, I've talked about in Romans chapter 16. We saw Priscilla. And then we see that several women in the book of Luke chapter 8, the Bible says several women supported Jesus' ministry. They were there in the church. Several women. So can sisters act as ushers? Yes, I think sisters can act as ushers, provided they stay in their lane, doing what ushers do, which is smile, greet people, lead them to their seat.
Not them alone. Even the deacons, provided the ushers.
Yes, if we had deacons would do those things, we supervise them, making sure that they are doing it right. But when we don't have deacons, it is Brother Patrick and Brother Maso that will make sure that they are doing what they should be doing. Sister, your duty is not to tell us what to do. Your duty is to simply smile at people, shake them, give them a handshake, and show them to their seats. So the impression we had from all of this is that while sisters had no role of authority, strength, or valor, they did serve in the tent of meetings. I take it again. It's a very strong word. While they did not have authority, they had no valor. They were not gatekeepers, but they served in the tent of meeting. These are some other scriptures, but there's no time now. All right? So let's quickly just go back and now answer some of these questions. In the New Testament, which of the following leadership roles explicitly mentioned? We did not see ushers. That's understandable. What was mentioned is what? Elders. So the answer to this question is B. For this one, primary authority for determining the church roles, we have seen that the answer is what? C. It is the New Testament, not church tradition. Okay, it is the New Testament. So we are not actually saying sisters should be ushers because we see Roman Catholic having sisters or women as ushers. We are not saying sisters should be ushers because we see, Anglican churches and other churches having women as ushers. That's not why. It is not church tradition or norms or anything. New Testament scriptures. The term usher as used in many congregations today, the term ushers is clearly defined in the New Testament. Modern functional role that is not explicitly named. And that's the answer. It is not explicitly named, but we can infer that women could serve in non-leadership, non-authoritative roles in the church. Okay? And that makes this answer B. Which of the following best describe the roles of deacons? Is it that they govern the church universally or they serve practical administrative role? That is the answer. Their whole role is to what? To serve. And then, number 5, the answer should have been E. All of the above is what the present-day ushers should do. They should welcome members and visitors. They should maintain order during service. They should be at the door. Okay, now when I say gatekeeping, I think we need to take that one out. Not in the other sense. So
you're not talking about those.
yes, you're not talking about the Old Testament. Cities don't have gates these days. England, I don't think we have gates in England. Do we have gates in Sheffield? I don't think we have gates in Sheffield. So, sorry, just take that off. You can strike it off. So, that's all of the above, so to say. Okay? And then, do you believe that church role must be explicitly mentioned in the scriptures? Yes. Roles in the church, when you say leadership roles in the church, whether you are going to be a pastor or a deacon, all this must be mentioned in the scriptures. Okay? But don't tell me that if you say yes to this answer, then everything must be measured. You will show me where there is cleaner in the Bible. Is there a cleaner? You used to see cleaner or bread baker. Or the people, dress job, IT, projector. Are those scriptures in the Bible? Yes. So this would have been roles of deacons if we had deacons, okay? But where church like us does not have deacons, and it is not authoritative roles, I think that our sisters can do it because sisters did serve even in the Old and in the New Testament, as we have tried to look at. Okay? So, my final thoughts, and this is why I did say, we stayed a bit more time, 5 minutes beyond time. Okay? My final thought is that sisters can be thinking. I was not very comfortable, to be honest with you. Sorry, ushers. I apologize. Ushers. All right. So I was quite skeptical. I was not very comfortable, having to come to this conclusion. But this is what it is. Okay, sisters can be ushers in the present day service, in the present day term. Okay, that we know ushers to be. Okay, that they should come in and make sure that the places are arranged and that we have people who are leading people to their seats. All right. So, brethren, yeah, that's how I understand. If men can teach children, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. In fact, the deacons would teach children. That's their job. Okay, the deacon, if we had deacons, they would teach children. Okay, or they will appoint sisters to do that in a non-assembly manner. When I say non-assembly, that is not when the full church is seated, like we are currently doing. Okay, sister, I forgot the sister's name, sister. No, so you see, then they take children there outside. Yes, sister, that outside of the main worship, outside of the main one, they are teaching children. So that is not the church worship. They can teach children because they are not usurping authority over any baptized brother or man. Okay, so in that setting, yes, but within the setting like this, the deacons can teach children. They can, or they can appoint. So I think, yes, they can. But if it's outside, if you're talking about, socially or in terms of what profession should this child, based on the characteristics I've seen in this child, should this child be a mechanic or should be a footballer? Whether they should do that one. They will send the child to school. It's school they should send that child to, not church. Okay, all right. We thank God for this opportunity and we ask that God will bless each and every one of you in Jesus' name. Amen.